Imagine if, in this very moment, you had the power to shed all the invisible burdens you carry, the worries, regrets, expectations, and attachments that weigh you down. Imagine what it would feel like to live without these, to walk through life as if a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying had been lifted. This journey, the one we're about to explore together, is precisely about that, learning to let go, to release what no longer serves us, and to uncover the peaceful, centered self beneath all those layers. These are not just abstract ideas, they are practical steps grounded in ancient wisdom, guiding you toward a life of clarity, joy, and inner freedom. With each of these 11 things we'll quietly let go of, we move closer to the kind of peace that endures beyond fleeting moments. As the Buddha wisely said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Together, let's explore the beauty and liberation of a life lived lightly and intentionally. If you're ready to step into this deeper sense of calm and clarity, let's begin. Part 1. Release the grip on control. Let's face it, as humans, we're wired to want control. We spend our days planning, preparing, and trying to manage every aspect of our lives, hoping that with enough control, we can avoid pain, loss, or failure. We want security, we crave certainty. But have you ever noticed that the tighter we try to hold on, the more restless and anxious we often become? This need to control, over our surroundings, relationships, and outcomes, comes from a deep-seated fear of the unknown. We think, if only I can control this, I can be safe. But in reality, control is an illusion. Life is always changing, and much of what happens is beyond our grasp. This truth is one Buddhism speaks to powerfully, inviting us instead to flow with life rather than fight it. Imagine a river flowing peacefully, its waters moving over rocks and around bends. Now, picture what would happen if you tried to stop it with your bare hands. You'd exhaust yourself, and the water would still find its way around you. When we try to control life, it's as if we're trying to dam up that river. Inevitably, life finds a way forward, and we're left drained and frustrated. True peace, as Buddhism teaches, is found in surrendering to this flow, in embracing the natural currents rather than resisting them. The Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to." In this simple yet profound truth lies the key to releasing control. By loosening our grip, by allowing life to unfold as it will, we open ourselves to unexpected beauty, peace, and freedom. Think of a moment when something didn't go as planned. Maybe an unexpected event threw you off course, a missed flight, a job that didn't work out, or a sudden change in plans. Yet, if you look back, perhaps you can see how that situation brought a new opportunity, a lesson, or even a hidden blessing. When we learn to release the need to control, we discover that life has its own way of unfolding, often in ways far beyond what we could plan or predict. Instead of feeling bound by rigid expectations, we can respond to life with openness and resilience. The practice of letting go of control doesn't mean becoming passive, it means responding with calmness and trust rather than anxiety and force. So, take a moment to consider, what parts of your life are you clinging to? Where are you gripping too tightly, hoping to steer things your way? What would happen if you allowed yourself to release that grip, even a little? By letting go, you make space for peace to enter, peace that's not based on circumstances, but on a deeper acceptance of life as it is. In this practice of releasing control, you might just find a freedom that runs far deeper than the fleeting comfort of trying to control it all. Part 2. End the habit of constant comparison. It's all too easy to fall into the trap of comparison. We look around and see people who seem happier, more successful, or more accomplished, and in an instant, we feel less. The habit of comparing ourselves to others is so ingrained that it almost feels natural, yet this constant measuring is one of the most common thieves of our inner peace. When we focus on what others have or what they're doing, we miss the beauty, value, and potential of our own unique path. As Theodore Roosevelt wisely said, comparison is the thief of joy. When we allow our happiness to be influenced by others' lives, we put our well-being in someone else's hands. In Buddhism, the teachings remind us that true contentment comes from within. It comes from understanding that each of us is on our own journey, a journey that's distinct, valuable, and incomparable. Imagine you're walking along a beautiful path. It's uniquely yours, its twists, turns, and scenery are all part of your experience. Now imagine that every few steps, you stop to look over at someone else's path, someone walking beside you. You might notice that their path has flowers you don't see on yours, or that their journey appears smoother or easier. The more you focus on their path, the more you lose touch with the beauty on your own. You might even miss the small, precious moments right in front of you. When we compare, we take ourselves out of our lives and into someone else's, leaving us disconnected from our own peace and purpose. Gratitude is one of the most powerful antidotes to comparison. When we take a moment to appreciate what we have, our strengths, our blessings, our unique experiences, we begin to shift our focus inward, away from what others have. Each of us has our own gifts, our own challenges, and our own timing in life. Embracing this truth allows us to celebrate others without feeling threatened or inadequate. Think of moments when you've achieved something meaningful, whether big or small. Those victories, those lessons, and even those challenges are entirely yours. They're part of a story that no one else can replicate or replace. The more we honor our journey and trust in our process, the less we feel the need to compare. True fulfillment doesn't come from keeping up, it comes from connecting deeply with our own purpose, our own growth, and the steps we take forward. Letting go of comparison doesn't mean we ignore others' achievements, rather, it means celebrating them without letting them define our worth. It's about understanding that life is not a race or a checklist, but a deeply personal journey that unfolds in its own time. When we let go of the habit of comparison, we free ourselves to live authentically, to appreciate our own path, and to find joy in the unique blessings that are ours alone. As you move forward, practice gratitude daily. Appreciate what you have and recognize the beauty in the path you're walking. In doing so, you may find that comparison loses its hold on you, replaced by a quiet sense of contentment and a deep, abiding peace. Part 3. Let go of material attachments. We live in a world that often equates worth with wealth, where the pursuit of more is woven into the fabric of our lives. It's easy to believe that happiness lies in our possessions, that if we could just have the newest technology, the designer wardrobe, or a home filled with beautiful things, we'd finally feel fulfilled. But is this really the case? More often than not, the more we own, the heavier life begins to feel, as if each possession adds a hidden weight to our hearts and minds. The Buddha taught, the root of suffering is attachment. And it's a profound truth. When we cling to material things, believing they can bring lasting happiness, we bind ourselves to a cycle of desire and loss. This attachment blinds us to the transient nature of all things, pulling us away from true peace. The teachings of Buddhism remind us that everything is impermanent, what we own today will fade, break, or lose its luster tomorrow. The joy we seek cannot be found in things that are destined to change and disappear. Consider the feeling of a cluttered room, where every corner is filled, every drawer packed tight with things collected over time. At first, it may seem comforting to have everything we want within reach, but slowly the space grows stifling, the air heavy. Now, imagine clearing that space, letting go of each unnecessary item. With each act of release, the room becomes lighter, more open. This simple act of decluttering mirrors a powerful inner transformation. The less we cling to what is temporary, the more room we create for lasting peace and clarity. Attachment to material things is rooted in our desire to hold on to what we think will make us secure or complete. We attach ourselves to the idea that these possessions define us, that they validate our worth. But these things are fleeting, and as we cling to them, we ignore the truth of impermanence that runs through all of life. To let go of these attachments is not to live in deprivation, but to make space for what truly enriches our lives: peace, freedom, connection, and self-discovery. Imagine, for instance, a favorite item you've held on to for years, perhaps because it reminds you of a past moment or a version of yourself you once cherished. Letting it go feels almost like letting go of a part of yourself. But in releasing it, you discover something unexpected, a sense of lightness, a sense of freedom. When we stop clinging to things that only anchor us to the past, we open ourselves up to the present and allow our true selves to emerge, unburdened. Living without attachment to material things doesn't mean living without comfort or beauty, it means recognizing that real comfort and beauty come from within. When we're no longer entangled by the desire for more or the fear of losing what we have, we gain clarity. We begin to see life as it is, ever-changing, always evolving. And in that understanding, we find that we don't need to possess everything to feel complete. So, look around at what you own and ask yourself, what am I holding on to out of fear or habit? What could I release to find a deeper sense of peace? In letting go of material attachments, we honor the truth of impermanence. We discover a joy that doesn't rely on what we own but grows from who we are and who we are becoming. Embrace this simplicity, and in doing so, you may just find that life feels lighter, and the path to contentment becomes clearer. Part 4. Silence the inner critic. In each of us, there's a voice that often whispers the harshest words, one that knows precisely where our vulnerabilities lie. It's the inner critic, a relentless judge that magnifies our smallest mistakes, questions our worth, and feeds on our insecurities. This voice can be so ingrained that we sometimes mistake it for truth, letting it guide how we see ourselves and our potential. But if we step back, we realize that this inner critic isn't protecting us, it's holding us back. The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Yet, how often do we forget to treat ourselves with that same kindness? Negative self-talk undermines self-growth, trapping us in a cycle of self-doubt and fear. It becomes a barrier to our inner peace, preventing us from seeing our true, compassionate nature. Consider a time when you made a small mistake, something as simple as missing a deadline or saying something awkward in a conversation. Often, our inner critic seizes these moments to echo phrases like, "Why aren't you better?" or "You'll never succeed." We may replay these instances in our minds, letting them distort our self-worth, when in truth, these are simply human moments, fleeting and insignificant. But what if we could silence this critic? What if, instead of judgment, we met our imperfections with understanding? Just as we would comfort a friend, we can learn to respond to ourselves with kindness and forgiveness. Imagine the power of saying to yourself, "It's okay. I'm doing my best." This act of self-compassion doesn't make us complacent, it gives us the strength to grow, to rise above mistakes, and to learn without the weight of harsh criticism. One way to begin silencing the inner critic is through affirmations, gentle reminders of our worth, even when we stumble. Simple phrases like, "I am enough" or "I am deserving of kindness" may seem small, but over time, they shift our inner dialogue from harshness to acceptance. Just as we've internalized self-criticism, we can rewire ourselves to internalize self-compassion. Another way to cultivate kindness toward ourselves is through mindfulness. When we catch ourselves in moments of self-judgment, we can pause, recognize the thought for what it is, a passing cloud in the vast sky of our mind, and let it go. With each act of compassion, we reclaim a piece of our peace, our confidence, and our clarity. The journey of silencing the inner critic is not about eliminating self-reflection or ignoring areas for growth, it's about embracing our humanity, with all its imperfections. We are here to grow, to learn, to stumble, and to rise again. Every compassionate thought we offer ourselves is an invitation to step out of the shadows of self-doubt and into a space where we can flourish. So, ask yourself, when have you been your own harshest critic? And what might change if, instead of judgment, you offered yourself kindness? In treating yourself with the love and affection you truly deserve, you nurture the foundation of your inner peace. By quieting the inner critic, you allow your true self to emerge, free from fear, and full of compassion. In this gentle self-acceptance, you find a strength that is profound, a strength that guides you toward your highest potential. Part 5. Forgive anger and resentment. Anger is a powerful emotion. It can spark a fire within us, often for reasons that feel justified and deeply personal. But when we hold on to anger, nurturing it within our hearts, it becomes a poison that affects no one as much as ourselves. The Buddha's wisdom on this is clear: holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The act of holding on to anger and resentment harms us more than anyone else, weighing down our spirit and blocking our path to inner peace. Imagine two people who each face a similar hurtful situation. One person chooses to forgive, not because what happened was acceptable, but because they understand that clinging to anger will only keep the pain alive within them. They let go, allowing peace to settle in their heart. The other person, however, clings tightly to their resentment, replaying the wrong in their mind, letting it fester. Over time, this anger consumes their thoughts, colors their interactions, and drains their joy. Their grudge becomes a barrier between themselves and the world, isolating them in a cage of bitterness. The contrast between these two people highlights the profound impact of forgiveness, not as an act of condoning, but as an act of liberation. Forgiveness is not for the benefit of those who have wronged us, it is a gift we give ourselves, a decision to release the chains that anger and resentment create. But how do we reach this place of forgiveness? Forgiveness begins with recognizing that holding on to anger does not change the past. It only damages our present. Each time we relive a hurt or nurture a grievance, we allow that pain to take up precious space in our minds and hearts. By choosing to forgive, we reclaim that space, making room for peace, compassion, and healing. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it is an act of profound courage and strength. To forgive is to release ourselves from the grip of anger, to break free from the endless cycle of blame, and to open ourselves to a life of freedom. Forgiving does not mean forgetting, it simply means choosing not to let past wounds dictate our happiness. Consider moments in your life when you've been able to let go of smaller frustrations, a misunderstanding with a friend, a disagreement with a coworker. The act of moving past these moments likely brought a sense of relief and closure. Imagine expanding this mindset to larger hurts. By letting go of resentment, we regain control over our emotions and reclaim our inner peace. Forgiveness is not a single act but a practice. It may take time, and that's okay. Each time we release a bit of anger, each time we let go of a grudge, we take a step closer to freedom. We lift a weight from our heart, allowing ourselves to experience life with a little more clarity, a little more joy. Ask yourself, who in my life am I still holding anger against? How much peace could I gain by letting go, by forgiving, not for them, but for myself? In choosing forgiveness, we choose peace over bitterness, love over hate, and freedom over suffering. By forgiving, we are no longer bound by past pain. We are free to live fully in the present, with a heart unburdened and a spirit open to the beauty of life. Part 6, Unshackle from Past Guilt and Regret. There are few weights heavier than the feeling of guilt or regret. These emotions, though often well-intentioned reminders of our mistakes, can become chains that hold us back, keeping us tethered to moments we cannot change. The Buddha offered us a path to freedom from this burden when he said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." Guilt and regret are rooted in the past, and when we cling to them, we miss out on the life unfolding before us right now. Imagine someone who made a mistake years ago, a moment of poor judgment, a harsh word spoken in anger, or an opportunity lost. This person constantly replays the incident in their mind, haunted by thoughts of what if. And if only. The weight of their regret colors their present, impacting how they see themselves and keeping them from fully enjoying life. They want to move forward, but their self-judgment and guilt hold them back, binding them to a moment they cannot change. Now, imagine if this person decided to shift their perspective, to view that mistake not as a permanent stain on their life but as a lesson, a stepping stone toward greater understanding and wisdom. Instead of seeing themselves as a person defined by their errors, they could see themselves as someone capable of growth, someone who has learned and can move forward. This shift, this act of self-forgiveness, would allow them to release the weight of the past and reclaim their peace in the present. In Buddhism, every experience, even our mistakes, is part of our journey toward wisdom and compassion. Mistakes are not failures, they are opportunities to learn, to grow, and to evolve. When we make peace with our past, we transform guilt and regret into sources of insight and strength. The past, after all, cannot be changed, but our relationship with it can. Forgiving ourselves is not always easy. It requires us to look honestly at what we did, acknowledge the impact, and accept that we were doing the best we could with the understanding we had at the time. Self-forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it releases us from the prison of self-judgment, allowing us to carry the lessons forward without the weight of shame. To let go of guilt and regret, try this practice. Take a moment to think of a past mistake that still causes you pain. Acknowledge the regret, feel the discomfort, but then, gently tell yourself, I am human, and I am allowed to make mistakes. Breathe deeply, and with each exhale, imagine releasing a little of that guilt. Let each breath carry away the judgment, the shame, and the self-blame. Over time, this practice of letting go becomes easier, freeing you from the chains of the past. You may find that self-forgiveness opens doors to a new sense of confidence, allowing you to move forward with greater clarity and compassion. So ask yourself, what am I still holding onto from my past? How would my life change if I could release that guilt, forgive myself, and step into the present with a heart unburdened? Remember, every day offers a new beginning. Each moment is an opportunity to let go of the past and embrace the present. By unshackling yourself from guilt and regret, you're not only giving yourself the gift of peace, you're honoring the wisdom gained along the way, using it to shape a brighter and more compassionate future. Part 7. Loosen ties with toxic relationships. Relationships are one of life's greatest sources of joy and growth. The right connections nurture us, inspire us, and provide support on our journeys. But what happens when a relationship starts to drain rather than uplift? What do we do when a connection becomes a source of tension, criticism, or negativity? The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh wisely said, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. Sometimes, letting go of a relationship that hinders our well-being is the most loving choice we can make for ourselves. Imagine someone who has been in a relationship, perhaps a friendship, a romantic partnership, or even a family connection, that has grown increasingly toxic. This relationship was once meaningful, but over time, it has become a source of stress and self-doubt. Instead of feeling supported, they feel judged, undermined, or drained. Every interaction leaves them feeling less confident, more anxious, and questioning their worth. One day, they decide to take a step back and reflect. They realize that, despite their best efforts to make things work, the relationship is harming rather than helping them. With courage, they choose to step away, to create distance from this toxic influence. In doing so, they experience an unexpected sense of relief. Their self-confidence begins to return. And they feel lighter, more at peace. By letting go of a relationship that no longer serves them, they reclaim their energy and make space for connections that uplift and nurture. Toxic relationships don't just drain our energy, they distort our self-worth, impacting how we see ourselves and how we navigate the world. They create an emotional weight that can hold us back from personal growth. But by loosening these ties, we free ourselves to grow and evolve without being bound by another's negativity or criticism. Releasing a toxic relationship doesn't mean we harbor resentment or ill will. It simply means recognizing that our well-being deserves priority. Letting go of a toxic influence is an act of self-respect. It's about honoring our path and choosing relationships that align with our values, growth, and happiness. Of course, parting ways with someone isn't always easy, especially when emotions and histories are involved. It can feel uncomfortable, even painful. But holding on to a relationship out of guilt, obligation, or fear only prolongs the suffering. It prevents us from finding relationships that nourish and support us. To start loosening ties with toxic influences, consider setting boundaries. Reflect on the relationship and identify what drains you. Begin to create emotional and physical distance, even if it's gradual. Surround yourself with positive, supportive individuals who respect you and encourage your growth. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or cutting someone off completely, it simply means choosing what is best for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Ask yourself, are there relationships in my life that consistently drain me? What would my life look like if I had the freedom to choose relationships that truly nourish me? Remember, it's okay to prioritize yourself. True freedom and happiness often require that we make difficult choices. By loosening ties with relationships that no longer serve us, we open our hearts to connections that enrich our lives and help us become the best version of ourselves. This is a powerful step toward living with peace, clarity, and joy. Part 8. Step away from overcommitment. In our busy, fast-paced lives, there's a common belief that more is always better, more commitments, more responsibilities, more accomplishments. We often feel pressure to say yes to everything, fearing that saying no might make us seem unhelpful, unreliable, or even selfish. Yet, when we constantly overextend ourselves, we lose touch with what truly matters. The Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield reminds us, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. True compassion involves caring for ourselves, setting boundaries, and allowing space for what genuinely aligns with our values. Overcommitment can feel like carrying an overflowing basket. Each commitment may be important in isolation, but when stacked together, they create a weight that becomes overwhelming. Imagine someone who, out of a desire to help, agrees to every request that comes their way, extra work projects, social gatherings, family obligations. Their intentions are good, but soon they find themselves stretched thin, exhausted, and unable to give their best to any one thing. They are so consumed by their commitments that they barely have time to rest or connect with their inner peace. Their days feel more like a series of obligations than moments of genuine purpose. Now, imagine if this person took a step back and considered their true priorities. What if they chose to say no to some requests? Focusing instead on the commitments that truly align with their goals and values? By doing so, they wouldn't only free up time and energy, they'd also be able to bring their full presence and quality to each commitment. Rather than scattering themselves across countless obligations, they would find deeper fulfillment in focusing on a few meaningful ones. Learning to say no is a powerful act of self-care and an essential skill for creating a balanced life. It's not about rejecting others, it's about respecting your own limits and understanding that you have the right to choose how you spend your time and energy. Each time you say no to something that doesn't align with your priorities, you're actually saying yes to what does. This shift allows you to invest in relationships, projects, and experiences that truly enrich your life. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're less compassionate or caring, it means you recognize that, to be at your best for others, you need to take care of yourself first. When we allow ourselves to rest, recharge, and focus on what matters, we cultivate a deeper well of energy and presence. This makes us more compassionate, more engaged, and more capable of truly giving to the things we've chosen to prioritize. If you're feeling overwhelmed by commitments, start by evaluating which ones align with your core values. Take note of any obligations that feel draining or that you only agree to out of obligation or fear. Practice saying no with kindness and clarity, understanding that your worth is not tied to how much you do for others, but in how genuinely you show up in the things you choose. So ask yourself, what commitments in my life align with my true priorities, and what can I gently let go of? By stepping away from overcommitment, you're not only taking care of yourself, you're choosing to live a life of purpose and intention. Embrace the power of saying no when necessary, and watch how much more you can give, how much more you can feel, and how much more you can enjoy life. Remember, the quality of your commitments is far more valuable than the quantity. In freeing yourself from unnecessary obligations, you reclaim your time, energy, and peace, making room for a life that resonates deeply with who you truly are. Part 9. Cease worrying about the future. Worrying about the future is a habit that many of us know all too well. It begins as a small thought, perhaps a concern about an upcoming event or an uncertain outcome, and before we know it, it grows, spinning endless scenarios in our minds. We tell ourselves that by worrying, we're preparing for what might come. But the truth is, as Mark Twain so aptly put it, worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. The energy we spend on worry is energy taken from the present, draining us without adding any real value. Imagine someone who spends weeks worrying about a big presentation at work. They fret over every detail, losing sleep, replaying all the things that could go wrong. As the day of the presentation approaches, their anxiety intensifies. But when the day finally arrives, everything goes smoothly. The fears that consumed them never come to pass. Looking back, they realize how much energy and peace they sacrificed to thoughts that turned out to be unfounded. This is the trap of worry. It keeps us in a state of fear, imagining a future that may never happen. In Buddhism, mindfulness teaches us that true peace is found in the present moment. When we are fully present, worry loses its grip on us. Instead of drifting into endless what-ifs, we find ourselves grounded in what is, appreciating the here and now without the weight of future fears. Worry is a form of suffering that we inflict upon ourselves. It tricks us into believing that by imagining the worst, we're somehow better prepared. Yet, when we look closely, we see that worry does not prevent bad things from happening, it only steals our present peace. The future is unknown, and while we can plan and prepare, excessive worry doesn't change the outcome, it only exhausts us in the process. Mindfulness offers a way out of this cycle. By practicing mindfulness, we train our minds to stay anchored in the present. The next time you catch yourself worrying about the future, take a deep breath and bring your attention to the here and now. Notice your surroundings, feel the ground beneath your feet, listen to the sounds around you. Remind yourself that in this moment, you are safe. This simple act of grounding in the present can help dissolve anxiety and bring clarity to your mind. Letting go of worry doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities or being indifferent to the future, it means finding balance. It means planning wisely but living fully in each moment, recognizing that our peace is rooted in the present, not in the uncertainties of tomorrow. To cultivate this mindset, try setting aside a few minutes each day to practice mindfulness meditation. Focus on your breathing, letting each inhale and exhale bring you back to the present. You may find that, with time, your mind becomes less prone to wander into future anxieties. You'll start to notice that most of the things you once worried about rarely, if ever, come to pass. Ask yourself, how much of my time and energy have I given to worries that never happened? What could my life be like if I let go of these imagined fears and embraced the present fully? By releasing worry, we free ourselves to live with greater peace, joy, and clarity. We can step into each day with openness, knowing that whatever comes, we will face it with a calm and resilient heart. In this way, we honor the wisdom of the present moment and discover a deeper, more lasting sense of tranquility. Part 10. Embrace life's impermanence. Life is a river in constant motion, a cycle of beginnings and endings, of growth and decay. Just when we think we've found something to hold on to, we realize that it too is passing, as all things do. The Buddha taught us that nothing is forever except change. Embracing this truth of impermanence, rather than resisting it, is a doorway to profound freedom and peace. Our desire for permanence, the wish that people, moments, or things could remain just as they are, often leads to suffering. We want certain relationships to last forever, certain comforts to never end, certain people to always be there. But the nature of life is flux, it's woven with the threads of impermanence. Understanding and accepting this truth allows us to release the grip of fear, making room for a calm, open heart that can face whatever life brings. Consider someone who has experienced the end of something meaningful, a friendship that faded, a beloved home that was left behind, or a cherished phase of life that naturally concluded. At first, they might feel sadness, even loss. But over time, if they embrace the truth of impermanence, they begin to see the beauty of what was and appreciate that it existed, even if it couldn't last forever. They learn to cherish each moment without clinging, finding a balance between joy in the present and acceptance of life's natural changes. When we understand impermanence, we stop clinging to what we have and fearing what we might lose. Instead of anxiously trying to preserve every precious moment, we savor it fully, knowing it is temporary, like a delicate flower that blooms only for a short time. This shift in perspective brings not sorrow, but liberation. It frees us from the constant need to control, allowing us to live with a light heart, open to whatever comes and goes. Accepting impermanence doesn't mean detaching from life or feeling indifferent. It means realizing that every experience is valuable precisely because it is fleeting. The laughter of friends, the warmth of a sunrise, the love of family, each of these moments holds a depth that's magnified by its transience. By accepting that everything is in a state of change, we begin to see life as a series of gifts, each one to be cherished in the moment and gracefully released when the time comes. To bring this practice into your life, try reflecting on the impermanence of the things around you. Notice the changing seasons, the growth and aging of loved ones, the ebb and flow of your own emotions. Appreciate each of these as part of life's ever-moving current, and let that awareness remind you to live more fully now. Let each moment, each encounter, and each experience be enough just as it is, without the need to make it last forever. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to, hoping it will never change? How might my life feel if I embraced the beauty of the moment without the need to hold on to it? By accepting impermanence, we learn to live without fear and without regret. We find a balance between gratitude and release, and in this, we discover a peace that is deep and enduring. Embracing life's impermanence allows us to meet every moment with an open heart, appreciating each part of the journey as it unfolds. And knowing that this flow, this endless change, is itself a gift. Part 11. Reframe failures as learning moments. We all encounter moments of failure. It may be a missed opportunity, a project that didn't go as planned, or a goal that slipped through our fingers. In these moments, it's easy to feel defeated, to judge ourselves harshly, and to see failure as a sign of our limitations. But what if we could see failure differently, not as an end, but as a step forward, a guide pointing us toward growth? As Lao Tzu said, failure is the foundation of success, and the means by which it is achieved. In Buddhism, every experience, especially our setbacks, carries the seed of a lesson. Imagine a person who spent years working on a business venture, pouring their time, energy, and heart into it. They dreamed of success, of building something meaningful. But despite their best efforts, the business failed. At first, they felt crushed, doubting their abilities and feeling that they had wasted precious years. Yet, as they took a step back, they began to see the experience in a new light. They realized that through the venture, they had developed resilience, discovered their strengths, and learned invaluable skills. This failure ultimately led them to a new opportunity that aligned even more closely with their values and purpose, one they may never have found if not for the initial setback. In Buddhism, failure and difficulty are not seen as judgments on our worth but as parts of the journey. Each setback is like a teacher, guiding us and encouraging us to grow. When we view failure in this way, we shift from seeing it as a defeat to seeing it as a bridge to greater wisdom and resilience. It teaches us humility, patience, and the courage to try again. Reframing failure doesn't mean ignoring disappointment. It's natural to feel disheartened when things don't go as planned. But instead of letting these moments define us, we can choose to let them refine us. We can pause, reflect on what went wrong, and consider what we might do differently next time. This reflection is where growth begins, turning what once felt like an obstacle into a stepping stone. To embrace this mindset, practice seeing every challenge as a valuable part of your journey. When you face a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger, wiser, or more compassionate. By shifting your perspective, you transform failure from a dead end into a path forward. One that leads to a more resilient and enriched self. Think back to a time when you faced failure. Perhaps it was a career goal, a relationship, or a personal aspiration that didn't unfold as you hoped. What lessons did that experience bring? How did it shape who you are today? Chances are, in hindsight, you can see ways in which that failure helped you grow, teaching you lessons that success alone might never have revealed. Every moment, every experience, holds meaning. By viewing failures as moments of learning, we cultivate a resilience that no success can provide. We begin to see life as a dynamic journey, where even the detours and missteps play a vital role in our development. Embracing failure as a guide, rather than a judgment, allows us to approach each challenge with curiosity, openness, and courage. As we reframe our setbacks as learning moments, we release the fear of failure and step into a space of endless possibility. We realize that our worth is not tied to our achievements, but to our willingness to grow, to learn, and to rise again. In this way, failure becomes not something to fear, but something to welcome, a sign that we are on the path of growth, that we are evolving, and that every step, no matter how difficult, is bringing us closer to our true potential. Conclusion: the path to inner peace. As we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on what lies ahead. Imagine a life where you're no longer weighed down by the invisible burdens you've carried for so long. A life where peace isn't just a fleeting feeling, but a steady presence, something you nurture each day by letting go of what no longer serves you. Each of these steps, whether it's releasing control, silencing the inner critic, or reframing failure, opens a door to greater freedom and clarity. The path to inner peace is not about transforming everything all at once, but about small, purposeful acts of letting go. Slowly, but with intention, we lighten our load and discover the quiet strength within. Each step we take is a step toward embracing life as it is, with grace and wisdom. So, I invite you now to take that first step. Choose one thing, just one, from these 11 practices. It might be releasing an attachment, forgiving a past hurt, or silencing that inner critic. Commit to this practice, even if it's only in small ways each day. Allow yourself to experience what it feels like to let go, to trust, and to open up to a life that feels lighter, more joyful, and deeply peaceful. As Lao Tzu wisely said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. This journey toward peace, freedom, and inner contentment begins not with a drastic leap, but with a simple, steady step in the direction of release. Remember, each moment of letting go, each breath of acceptance, brings you closer to the life of inner harmony you seek. So, as you move forward, know that you have the power to create this change within. Let each small release be a gift to yourself, a step toward a life lived with purpose and peace. And as you continue, you'll find that the path to inner peace is not a destination but a way of living, a journey marked by kindness, clarity, and freedom at every turn. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and may your path be filled with lightness and love. If you found these insights helpful and want to continue this journey towards a more peaceful, balanced life, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll stay connected to more inspiring content like this. And if this video resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with friends or family who might benefit from these teachings. Let's spread positivity and wisdom together. Your support truly helps grow our community. Thank you for watching.